All right, welcome to this month's TRiRODS meeting. I'll be your presenter today. I'm Kory. I'm the Chief Technologist for the iRODS Consortium, and I'm going to be talking about the recently approved and published iRODS 2023 roadmap. So here's the things that we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about the current status of iRODS. And then we're going to get into the consortium's plans for the future around the iRODS ecosystem. We cover several components of the roadmap, and then we'll get into expectations and the timeline. So let's jump right into it. So iRODS today. With each release, iRODS becomes better, things become more stable, and new features are provided. However, there are still some things that we'd like to improve upon, such as the developer experience, specifically the experience across programming languages. With each implementation, with each client library, such as Jargon, the Python, iRODS client, the C and C++ libraries, as well as the Go libraries, all of these they all have separate implementations of the iRODS protocol. And so this can make the experience of developers using these libraries different. It also means that there's a possibility that some implementations may lack features that are available in other implementations. Another thing we want to do, or another thing that is a primary thing that we want to focus on as well, is flexibility and visibility into deployments for administrators. They constantly need ways to examine what their deployments are doing. And if they have large amounts of servers, they need ways to be confident that they can diagnose what might be happening with their deployments. The last thing is that users who are doing science and things, they need better tools. This includes GUIs, anything else that they find useful that they might need or that's lacking within the iRODS environment. Right? And these things all have to be easy to understand and use so they don't get blocked on progress. So with those things said, we can get into the consortium's plan. And so the way we intend on addressing these challenges by focusing on improving approachability within the server. If we can simplify the barrier to entry to using iRODS and developing tools and libraries and things with iRODS, and that means that developers can get a more consistent experience across various programming languages and libraries. This empowers them to be able to build clients and tools that are easier to maintain, as well as their expectations become better because they can be confident in what their libraries and tools will do. And this also ultimately helps, administrators and users overall because developers know what they're doing. So the first item that was listed on the overview is the server. As you can see, the first thing here is we want to make implementing the iRODS protocol less complicated. We have two ways of approaching that. The first being we want to look into maybe moving to a standardized protocol such as HTTP. The C++ REST API is going to influence the future of whether we adopt HTTP as a standard protocol for interacting with an iRODS server. Depending on how that goes, we may adopt it, it may be absorbed into the server, or it may continue to live as a sibling application next to the server. If that doesn't work out, then the next thing we'd be looking at is designing an entirely new protocol that resolves all the limitations and issues found with the existing iRODS protocol implementation. Another thing we have to do is we need to replace patchstruct. This is the proprietary iRODS binary encoding that's used to send and receive messages across from clients and servers. And so The issue with Packstruck is that it has memory leaks, it's challenging to debug, it's not documented. And so, and today we have better libraries such as protocol buffers, Captain Proto, flat buffers, and various other serialization libraries that we can leverage that allow us to, that force us to have to document the API, as well as, it just decreases it makes maintaining the serialization part of the server much easier. It also means that programming languages have a way to consume a specification and produce code specifically for that programming language. So there's a lot of benefits to moving away from Packstruck. The next thing here is we want to make server cloud friendly or friendlier. And the way we go about doing that is by possibly making it so that all of your iRODS nodes can have the role of catalog service provider. Doing this means that we remove an additional hop when things need to access the database. Some people may not want to share their database credentials across all their nodes, but that's all. But we can get around that by introducing, doing more work around centralizing the actual database credentials, possibly as a service. The other thing is that we also want to centralize and make the configuration of iRODS servers shareable across nodes, right? And so this makes managing configuration is shared across all your servers easy. You can just modify one location and all your servers are updated. And if you wanted to specialize one server's configuration, then you can introduce local overrides. At least this is the grand idea about how we want to move forward with the configuration and cloud friendliness. One thing that's not listed here is that we also know that dealing with host names is not the easiest thing to deal with iRODS, and so we want to look into making that more flexible as well. Last but not least is the handling of archive files. In today's iRODS implementation, dealing with archive files is not great. It needs a big update. And so what we want to do is we want to replace IM call. We want to remove the concept of special collections and just treat the contents of an archive as normal files within the catalog, right? If you have an iterator and you want to iterate over the contents of a collection and you encounter an archive file, iRODS should be able to iterate through the contents of that with ease. All right, next up is plugins and capabilities. So the main thing here is just getting things out the door mostly. Specifically the publishing capability that's been around for a while, it's been dormant and hasn't been touched in a while. So we want to, I think one of the things that we need to do there is we need to get the documentation, updated and good for people to consume so that they can start using the publishing capability. That also means we have to make sure that it is compatible with the 4.3 series of iRODS. The biggest thing here is we want to get policy composition out. And so policy composition, for people who aren't aware of it, it's a rule engine plugin that was developed some years ago by Jason Kapowski. And this would allow people to not have to know, administrators who are writing policy for their deployments, to not have to know 1,000 different dynamic PEPs. Instead, the policy composition rule engine plugin allows people to deal with more generalized PEP handlers, right? So there are, say for example, you want to open a data object in iRODS, right? There may be 5 different dynamic PEPs that you have to deal with. Policy composition would consolidate and it knows about these PEPs, and therefore when it sees an open request come through, it can deal with those things. It can group all of those PEPs together and run the same logic or same policy against all of those PEPs. And so it makes writing policy for your deployments much easier without administrators having to deal with all the burden of 15 different PEPs. All right, next up is libraries. This is mostly about making the new authentication plugin framework that was introduced in iRODS 4.3.0 available in the client-side libraries. This is important because we really want to move out of the realm of authentication. And so the new authentication plugin framework provides us with a lot of flexibility in that it helps to allow more dynamic conversations around authentication. Specifically, Surf has been working on a PAM Interactive plugin built on top of the new authentication plugin framework that will allow us to basically replace all authentication logic with this one plugin. It basically offloads all of the requirements onto the PAM module. And so with PAM, you'll be able to get Kerberos support. You'll be able to do OpenID Connect. At least that's the idea. So that gets iRODS out of the game of authentication, simplifying the management of things like passwords, et cetera, and just moves it off to more capable libraries. The last item for the roadmap here is clients. There are 3 clients in particular that we want to focus on, those being the iCommands, MetaLinks, and the Zone Management Tool. For the iCommands, we are looking to build a brand new CLI that will replace the existing iCommands. This new CLI will be a single binary, and it would come with a plugin architecture that allows people to extend it. This new CLI its goal is not to carry forward the legacy of the existing iCommands. It's not just a port. This is a complete rewrite of the iCommands. And so this is our chance to build something that is stable, featureful, easy to hold, is consistent in its help text. All the things that we have learned through the existing iCommands, we can improve now because we have better facilities for doing that. The next one here is MetaLinks. Since we now have MetaLinks 2.6.1 released, we can now look forward to focusing on removing the private Postgres database that's shipped with every MetaLinks deployment. iRODS has become much better at doing, it has grown better support for jQuery and things over the years, and with jQuery 2 being very close to being part of the server, this will make MetaLinks much easier to deal with as well. It will just help improve MetaLinks capabilities. So we think we can get rid of the Postgres database that's shipped. Not only that, but we also want to start stripping certain features away from MetaLinks. In particular, we want to start removing most of the administrative features. And well, we want to remove the administrative features, and we want to make MetaLinks more of a non-admin focused tool. This means that the MetaLinks application itself becomes smaller, it's easier to maintain, it has a very clean focus in what it wants to achieve. And it will just make the experience for normal users easier, because we can build things into MetaLinks that are specific to their needs. Last but not least is the Zone Management Tool. This was a project that was developed a year or 2 ago. This is the consortium's attempt at building a full-fledged administration application. So the things that we will remove from MetaLinks will be absorbed by this tool or offered in some way that will allow people to achieve the same behavior, right? The main things with the Zone Management Tool that we want to include are things like being able to manage configuration across all of your nodes, as well as policy, et cetera. All right, so expectations. As I said before, if we can improve upon approachability by making these changes, then the hope is that developers who are writing software on top of the iRODS platform, they can focus on the things that are important for doing the job right. They can write clients and tools that are easy for people to understand and maintain, as well as it's consistent across all libraries. Everybody's experience is the same. Administrators have, because developers are now empowered to build better tools, administrators and users both, their jobs become easier, right? Users are able to access these tools, and now they can do science and things, whatever it is. And they don't have to be bogged down by, oh, a connection just fell over in iRODS because some programming library, some library just, didn't work as expected. As for timeline, so there's no particular release. The things that have been discussed in this presentation they're not tied to a particular release or date. So these are things that we expect to happen over a long period of time, similar to, hopefully not as long as 4.3 took to get out, but the idea is that because we have these better, because we have better tools and libraries ourselves, that we can focus on these things and make a better system for everybody. Obviously, the things that we focus on will be set by the community. So if you really need something done, please make issues, please let us know, reach out. And, we always look for participation, because if we put things out and nobody responds to it, then, it's possible that this thing could be a bad design, and now it makes the server, and it sets everyone back. It also introduced additional burden on the core dev team. So we want to try to be as proactive as possible to put things out and get feedback from the community. And with that said, thank you. There's a link to the roadmap, and I can accept questions now. Are there any questions from anyone? So I got a question from Alan. Can you unmute?
Oh, I was clapping.
Oh.
All that sounds great. Let's do that.
Excellent. All right. There's no questions.
Do we have a way, do we have a clear way forward to being more cloud friendly? Is that with Cockroach DB as we planned, or is that to make everyone a catalog provider, or is that likely with some other?
I think there's a lot of room for experimentation about how we approach that. The roadmap has maybe 1 or 2 additional bullet items that I didn't list in this presentation, but a lot of these things are just going to require a lot of investigation and experimentation.
Yeah,
they're long-term goals, and so it may not be clear exactly how to do this, but we know that we need to get there, right?
cloud is a different world.
Right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you.